Yep. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, family. Welcome, welcome to A Moment with Purple. Yes, we are live all over your aux, baby. And you know what it is. I am Saj the Purple Blackwell, your host for today on our amazing interview series, Why Vote, Why Now, and not now, but right now, okay? I'm just adding that to the spiel there. And of course, we know that Election Day is May 16th, and we have one of our friends, one of our guests, to talk about Election Day with us and the importance of Election Day. Welcome our friend, Councilmember Jimmy Harrity.
Yeah,
hey.
Pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show. Now, listen, while just so you know, while we're on air, Purple is always multitasking. So when she's looking down, it does not mean she's not paying attention to you, but she is in the mix. So tell us tell us currently you are a council member and you're running. Why do you have to run again? What are you running for? Let us know. Talk to us.
Well, you know, I live in the Kensington section of the city at G and Allegheny, and I was there and noticing that things just kept getting worse. Nobody was actually fighting for the kids or the seniors in my neighborhood. They spent more time worrying about the homeless addicted population in the area than they actually did about the residents who live there. Mm-hmm. And coming from recovery, I know full well, you know, what's going on down there. And you know, I have a little bit of a different spin. We definitely have to show these addicts show them that somebody loves them, but it's going to be tough love. They need a regimented thing when they first get sober. We need to stay away from people, places, and things and stuff like that. Little cliches that they say, but it really is the truth. So I seen that there was a need for somebody to step up, and I went to Senator Street and I was kind of bitching to him about what was going on.
Okay.
He turned around and looked at me and said, well, I guess you know what you got to do then. I guess you're going to run.
Okay.
And, you know, I never really thought about that before. I was perfectly happy being the person behind the person. I mean, I was Senator Street's chief of staff and most recently the political director of the state of Pennsylvania when he took over as chair of the state.
Okay.
You know, and I had a very good job. I made good money. It was actually a little bit of a pay cut to become a councilman, believe it or not. But you know, for me, it's about the kids. It's about building new schools. It's about giving them activities to be able to do. You know, when I was a kid, we had so many different programs in my neighborhood. You know, I had so many coaches and so many mentors and people that just took the time. And when our ancestors said that it takes a village, they knew what they were talking about.
Yes,
we need to get back to that. We need to help each other, stand together. This climate that we have now with the gun violence and everything like that, we need to get things done. We need to figure out why a 14, 15-year-old kid feels the need to carry a gun.
Yes.
That's a problem. We have to spend more money on behavioral health for sure. We have a lot of kids. COVID hurt our children.
Yes, they did.
Not being around each other, especially those kids that are now teenagers now that were in that awkward stage of puberty right before COVID hit. You know, and then they lost their communication skills. They don't know how to talk to each other anymore. And, you know, we have to get better with that as a city. We have to give these kids the supports that they need. You know, and come to the realization that a lot of them are in low-income areas where their parents can't afford to send them to a counselor or a psychiatrist. That the city has got to step up in that aspect, and we need to talk to our children and see what's bothering them so that we can try to rectify that situation. Because, you know, for kids, it's mostly about they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. And like I said, COVID really hurt them.
That's a really important point to make. I think that now that we're quote unquote entering post-COVID era, as now so many of the benefits and programs that were initiated during COVID are now being cut. One thing that we don't take in enough stock that our children were secluded, you know, and then everything changed for them, and and what that did to them, and also how not that video games or anything new, but how then things like Fortnite became a way of life, and these games and these guns became their reality. So it became even easier for them then to take their reality that they're living every day in this game and go outside and become, then their life and art becomes reality. Now it's easy to carry a gun because I'm shooting with a gun every day on Fortnite. I'm killing you on auto theft. Getting 10 points for getting you out of here.
They think you got 9 lives like you do on the computer, and it's just not the case. And we lose 2 families that way.
Yes.
We lose the family of the poor child that was killed, but we also lose the family of the child who did the killing. I mean, they're going to have to go through a whole myriad of things, which ends with their son or daughter in prison for the rest of their lives. It's going to break up 2 families. We need some out of the box thinking to get this stuff under control. And we need the state to let us, if they don't have enough guts to do comprehensive gun legislation, then give us the right as a city of the first class to legislate our own laws, and we'll do it ourselves. City council, we could get some responsible gun legislation passed. I mean, there's some stuff we could do right away that would definitely bring it down. Simple stuff like, every police officer has to qualify with their weapons so that they actually hit what they're going to shoot.
Okay.
People who are getting a gun permit should have to get qualified.
Okay.
They should have to take a psychological evaluation, just like the police officers do. We don't give any police officer a gun if we figure out that they have a psychological evaluation.
Sure.
So why should we give a normal citizen a gun if they're having a mental lapse? And, it's not something that, some issues are different than others, as far as the mental thing is concerned. There's a big, depression is big right now because of COVID.
It's really real.
It's a real thing.
And I think that, again, the depression that we're facing these days is tied into the whole COVID thing. In COVID, you really got to know yourself, whether you wanted to or not.
Exactly,
you didn't have family coming over. You didn't have, the supports that you normally would. You couldn't just go to the club and all these kind of things. So you were isolated, and to get to know yourself. And some of us realize that we don't really know ourselves
or like ourselves,
or even know how to communicate with ourselves.
Yeah.
And, that's why I kind of like the whole Mary J. Blige song, Hello Gorgeous, was so important really for this time in society to realize, hey, say hello to yourself, love yourself, figure out who you are, what you like, and what you don't like. And of course, it also, the COVID also exposed, the family dynamic. There was a lot of abuse going on, and abuse had increased. And so with some of these children, school and going outside was a way to get away from some of this abuse. And when they became COVID, they had to be isolated with their families. A lot of the abuse really went up.
Yeah, for sure. It was rough on our children, but it was rough on everybody. But like you said, we're getting in a post-COVID world now, where we need to make things get back to as much of normal as we possibly can. And it starts, for me, everything starts with building new schools, educating our children.
Okay.
Educated people do not get in trouble. They do not commit crimes the way that these kids are doing now. We need to help them along. Everybody always asks me if I'm for second chances because everybody knows I got a second chance. But far too many of our children aren't getting their first chance. How about that? How about we work on giving kids a first chance at life?
Yeah.
For me, it's a little personal because I talk to the kids in my neighborhood. I got 110 kids that live on my block, and because of all the drug dealers and the addicts and everything else, they're afraid to come out of their housing. It's messed up when gunfire in the neighborhood is so commonplace that people don't even, they don't even flinch or thing because they're so used to it. That's not right.
It's not right.
And what our kids in Kensington have to see on a daily basis on their way to school is just ridiculous. And I say all the time, there's little Kensingtons all over the city.
Yes.
If you go to South Philly around, my son lives at 10th and Rittner, but if you go down to 7th and Rittner there, and they have a little problem with the opioid epidemic there. There's spots in West Philly that have their problems with the opioid epidemic.
Absolutely.
I mean, this disease and this this chemical, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what color you are.
Right.
It doesn't care where you come from. You know, most of the addicts in my neighborhood who are living down there homeless are from the suburbs. They're not from Philadelphia.
They're not even
from my neighborhood. The kids in my neighborhood, one good thing that came out of this opioid epidemic is the kids in my neighborhood know to stay away from that stuff. They see the effects daily on the people that are like zombies walking around in the neighborhood, you know, nodding out and all this stuff. And they see that and it traumatizes them, believe it or not. I mean, even though it's not somebody dying, that traumatizes them. It scares them. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it's about. You got somebody passed out in the middle of a residential area, and you know, that's also why, you know, we need to try to get these people into recovery, because without recovery, they'll never have a life. That's why I don't support safe injection sites.
Oh, I was going to get into that. First of all, you said a word. You said a whole lot of words that we need to address. So before we go any further, just want to remind you all that this is Councilmember Jim Harrity. Yes, that is Mr. Jim Harrity. Hey, guys. He is here live in the building. He is running for re-election at this point. The election date is?
May 16th.
Button
number 70.
Button number 70. So please spread the word. But I want to back up. Before I back up, I want to say that the children in Kensington, as you just said, basically have a living billboard, the whole "this is your brain on drugs," what we used to have, but they have it live. Unfortunately. Could you imagine what these children are going through on a daily basis in these neighborhoods? Back up to gun laws and what the city is doing right now to fight the state to get their own, to be able to have their own gun laws. Do you know anything about it? And what really has to be done as a citizen for us to help in the fight for the city to try to fight the state to have our own gun laws? What do we need to do here?
Well, you know, right now it's a lobbying thing. So, you know, I asked to be on intergovernmental because I thought I could make a difference there. And a lot of people don't know what the intergovernmental committee does, but that's the committee that is like to go between the Senate, the House, and the City Council. And my experience up there in the Senate, you know, there's only 50 senators in the state of Pennsylvania, but that also means there's only 50 chiefs of staff. And we all know each other. We've all worked together. And it's simply going up there and trying to convince some of the Republicans to give us the right to, as a city of the first class, there's precedent for it now. A few states have already done it to bigger cities of the first class. Where we can come in and legislate ourselves. I already did a resolution calling on them to do the same thing for us with the minimum wage, because I want to raise the minimum wage. I mean, there's
what? What are you trying to raise the minimum wage to?
Well, it would $15 an hour is kind of a start, but that's not. I would like to see it at least 20. There's a new study out that says if you're a single parent with one child, you need to make at least $37 an hour to be able to afford to live in the city of Philadelphia. You know, and yet we have sanitation workers and others that do work for the city who are only making about $40,000 a year. If that, we need to get better. It's not just us holding corporations accountable, but the city itself has to be held accountable. That's why we have 1 in every 5 jobs are unfilled. Because years ago, when I was a kid, my uncle worked for the sanitation department. That was a good job.
A job you could have pride in.
And you couldn't get that job. You know, you had to fight. And now we have a huge shortage because the salary didn't keep up with the rate of inflation. We need to do better with that. There's a lot of people we need to be paying more. First off, our teachers. You know, they're the first line of defense.
Speak it up in here, Jim. Okay.
The first line of defense, our teachers. If we want the kids to be able to learn and we keep complaining about the grades that the kids are getting, well, the teachers would be able to concentrate on their students a little more if they didn't have to go get a second job in order to support themselves and their families.
And paying for school supplies themselves.
Exactly, all that little stuff. And, you know, that's why I support Senator Hughes's bill that's up in the Senate. He called for $1 billion to help with our deferred maintenance. and building new schools. But he also asked for a $500 million for the ancillary jobs that go there that we got rid of, all the teachers' aides and all that stuff.
Right,
you know, kids have less of a chance of acting out or acting up if you have one of their friends' parents walking around the thing. When my mother was walking around my school, you know, I wasn't trying to do anything.
Right.
Right there.
I'm against snitched on.
Even if it was like one of my friends' mothers, Mrs. Brady was always there, and she's a 40th Ward. I grew up in Southwest, and you know, you had to see Mrs. Brady in the hall, and she was going to tell your mother, you know what I mean, what you were doing.
Right?
You know, and we need to get back to that. We need psychologists, psychiatrists in our schools. Now we have partnerships which are very good with some of the hospitals where kids that were trauma, but the bottom line is there's a lot of trauma in our schools and not necessarily being reported. You know, not every kid is as open about what's going on in either their home life or what's happening to them on the street. Bullying, you know, bullying is real. Is real. Too real. Know? And you know, we need as a society to get better with these things. We need to start paying our city employees what they're worth. During the pandemic, we found out what the sanitation people were
so low.
You know,
we learned the hard way. Oh, so Jim, I don't want to cut you off, but let me go back into so in regards to the gun laws in Philadelphia that everyone knows we need to change it. If you don't know, Philadelphia right now cannot control their own gun laws. We are held beholden to the state's gun laws here in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is trying to fight. One thing that Mayor Kenny is doing and has been very vigilant in the fight to Philadelphia to be able to have its own gun laws. He sued the state over and over again. So you're saying that we really need people to get involved in lobbying.
You need to be calling your state senators, no matter where you live in the city of Philadelphia. You know, in the city of Philadelphia, our senators are pretty much with it. Absolutely. But any family you have out in the counties, especially those red counties where the Republicans control, we got to let them know that. And this is about, and listen, we don't want to take anybody's guns legally. You know, there's hunters in my family. There's, you know, my wife's family is a big time hunters. Right. You know, but you don't need a 100-round clip to hunt deer. If you do, you should give it up. Right.
You know? You're taking the essence away.
Right. And there are laws, hunting laws that we can just enforce. For instance, a hunter is not allowed to have more than 4 rounds in his gun at any one time while he's out there hunting. Let's just enforce that. You know what I mean? How about we you know, little stuff that we could probably get past. Like, how about we pass that the only clip that can go is the clip that went to the gun. You can't buy extended clips. Right. That's stuff that we can
put
do
them all over your body and
make a difference. Right. You know, there's a lot of stuff, but we just got to try to explain to them that how the violence that's happening here in our city is going to branch out. It doesn't stay where it's at.
It hasn't. That's the thing.
Exactly.
We had in the city of Philadelphia, we had our hot spots, our pinpoint areas where gun violence was happening a lot. You know, you had the areas, the hot spots where you know the gun violence happening in these areas. Now the gun violence has trickled out throughout the city of Philadelphia. You know, I used to preach the rhetoric. Oh, you know, we know where the shootings are. We know they're in this area, this and this area. But now it has definitely spilled out to be throughout the city of Philadelphia. So that's what we're fighting against. Back to schools. You say that city of Philadelphia, we need to build new schools. Well, you just told us a little bit, answer my question a little bit about where we're going to get the money from for those schools.
Then $13 billion that the state has up there. You know, listen, that $13 billion surplus that they have up there is because they have been funding our schools so low for so long. You know, we're paying between $9,000 and $12,000 a student.
Okay.
And Delco, Bucks, Montgomery, and Chester counties, they pay upwards of $24,000 a kid. You can't tell me there's not a direct correlation. You just got to look at their schools to see. Their schools are brand new. They have swimming pools and everything else. And, you know, we're lucky if we have a library.
Right, literally.
You know.
So, okay, so that's important. So there, and it's $13 billion excess
with a B.
$1 billion. And we don't need we don't need $13 billion to fix Philly schools, but we need some of it. So that's where the advocacy
and
again.
Listen, we're not going to be able to do them all at once anyway. Okay. So if they give us the money in increments, our deferred maintenance cost is about $5 billion right now.
Okay.
If like in the Hughes bill, it has $1 billion for maintenance on schools.
Okay.
That's a start.
That's a start.
That's a fifth of what we need to complete it.
Right. So we don't need to be seeing schools shut down for asbestos every other day.
No. Like, what are we doing here? Schools, I always like to ask when I'm out at community meetings, I make everybody raise their hand. Who likes 2-for-1 deals? Because building schools for me is a 2-for-1. Not only do we get to give the kids a safe, clean place, non-toxic, we can build them green that they can go to, completely modern, but we also create job-sustaining family wages with the construction jobs that we go. And we can cut deals with the contractors building the schools where they hire some of the employees from out of the neighborhood. That way we get some of the neighborhood buy-in to it. Right. And that's what it's got to be about. We got to start helping people get a leg up. It's about, and that's what city council's about. That we're supposed to be the people fighting for the people. To give them what they deserve and what they need to be able to raise a family. Right. And it's hard. I stood with the child care early learning people today asking for a raise. They get no benefits. They're not making even $15 an hour. That's ridiculous. And they're the first line of defense for our kids.
They are. So in regards to, let's say, we talked about gun law, talked about Philly schools, and really what it's going to take to make a change in our community. As we know, I will always say it, and I say this with each candidate who is here, just to remind and put in their head that, 1, we need to add civics back in school. 2, we need financial literacy back in school so we can also help fight some of this teen poverty. And if we're fighting teen poverty, we're getting kids off the streets and they're less likely to go shoot somebody over money that they ain't got, or beef that they ain't got, or jealousy they don't got. So these are things that, putting back the trade programs into schools. Tell us what your ideas are in regards to the whole, the finding school education. What can we do with regard to the school board and curriculum changes? What can we do?
Well, you've heard me say it on numerous occasions. Yes. I believe we're educating our kids wrong to begin with in the first place. Not every kid is going to go to college. Right. And we educate every kid as if they are going to college. We need to start educating them for life so that they can go out, be a productive member of society, and get a job after high school. Okay. Because the sad reality is that even if a kid in my neighborhood has the grades to go to college, they're not going to be able to do it right away because they need to go get a job to help support their family, their brothers and sisters. They need that money. Right. Exactly. Right. Because, the only real color in a poor neighborhood is green. Yes. You know what I mean? Green is what runs it. And we need to show our kids the money. And listen, the bottom line is I was a construction worker. That's where I came from, a highway worker. I was able to raise a family, send my son to college. And that's why we have so many openings in the construction field nowadays. Years ago, how somebody got into a labor union was you got your father's job. When your father retired, family. You got it. You inherited his gig. We don't have that anymore because our kids, we do well enough that our kids want to go to college. They don't want to dig holes like that. They come home covered in dirt all day. I worked at a sewer for a while.
Smelly and stinky.
Yeah, you don't want to know what I came home
the smell that moms used to love back in the day. I bet you had a working man. That is what it meant.
That money. Exactly. But now our kids are able to go to college. We make good enough money to send them. But now we also have a shortage of skilled trade workers. We can be training these kids. I was so happy to see that the building trades and Ryan Boyer partnered with the Philly school system. And they're in a couple of schools right now teaching these kids carpentry and plumbing and electrical work. This is stuff that, carpentry and plumbing, that's the top of the food chain in the building trades. An electrician journeyman can make about $150,000 a year, and the carpenters ain't far behind that, if not
Legal money.
Illegal, yeah. That's more than I make.
That's a bitch great hustle right there.
You know, my son, I wish he would have decided to go into the trades before he went to 2 years of college.
Okay.
But he went to 2 years of college and then decided that he wanted to be an electrician.
Well, you know, you better make sure you spent that money. You know, you make sure you know you got all that.
Yeah, well, he went into the apprentice program, and that was the other thing. When he went into the apprentice program, the college he was in called in the loan, so I had to pay we had to pay the loan. You know, we're still paying for it, but you know,
lessons learned in life.
Exactly.
So I just want to dial back real quick. Also, just again, tell people where to vote for you, where your website and your platform.
Yeah, May 16th, you can vote for me, please. Button number 70.
Yes.
You know, we're in the midst of stuff. My website is www.jimharrityforcouncil.com. I don't give it out a lot, so it's
backwards on the social media. I think comes, but I think you guys will see it.
Yep. Again, that's www.jimharrityforcouncil.com. And listen, we're going to need your help. We need every vote is going to count this time around. I know we always say that this is the most important election of our lifetime.
Yes.
But you know, there's so much stuff on the ballot. The whole running of the city of Philadelphia is on the ballot because not only are we electing a new mayor, but we're also going to be electing a new president of the city council, a new city controller.
Yes.
You know, so these are 30 offices that are going to tell which direction the city goes in. And I believe we're at a crossroads. If we go one way, it's going to be bad. But if we go another way, we can get better. We can make this work for everybody, equal, you know. And I believe it all starts with education.
It does. Now, this is not an easy question as we're wrapping up. This is going to be our wrap-up question. And it's not, you know, there's been a lot of talk about what people should do, excuse me, with Kensington. How we should regulate Kensington, how to make it better, how to fight the fight. Some people said shut it down, shut down corners, shut down streets. Do you have an idea of how to fix Kensington?
Well, Kensington has been Kensington for a long time.
Right.
I've lived there for 16 years now. And I came from a little rough of a neighborhood in Southwest Philadelphia, you know what I mean? Right. So when I first moved around there, you could still walk around. I could go to the stores. I could go down and have a drink if I wanted. I drank back then. So I'd be in a suit and tie sitting in a bar in Kensington. Nobody bothered me. I had no problems. I could walk down to the store. Now we have no stores. They just shut our Walgreens down. Anybody knows anything about insurance? The seniors have to designate where they're going to get their insurance, their prescriptions picked up at. So they were all at that Walgreens. Now they have to go to Aramingo Avenue, which is 2 buses, but hey, guess what? They shut one of the buses down. Right,
and accept the routes.
You know, about that. Kensington is a unique problem, and we have to get to some of the roots causes of the problem, which is the opioid epidemic. We need to get those people that are living down there, homeless and addicted, into treatment. Because that's the only way they're going to have a life. When they talk about safe injection sites, that's not going to do it. As somebody in recovery, that's just outrageous. All it's going to do is keep people out there longer when they should be trying to find out or get into a recovery system, because they'll never have a life that way. You know, you're I basically believe that that's us putting our hands up in the air and saying, you know what?
We give up.
We give up. We don't know what to do with this problem. So we're just going to put you guys over here. And you guys just don't bother anybody and do what you're going to do over there. But the problem with that is that it spreads out to the neighborhoods. And they're not just thinking, everybody thinks that they're thinking Kensington and South Philly like they talked the first time. No, I found out when I went to meet with the DOJ that they're talking about 10 of them. They're talking 1 per council district. So that means it's coming to a neighborhood near you. And, you know, I don't take this lightly. I went up and I checked out the safe injection site in New York. I didn't go in. I went up there on an off day just to check out the neighborhood, driving around. And what I found was that the lines were so long that people were sitting there shooting up in the line because, you know, when you're dealing with an addict, they need to get high when they need to get high. Otherwise, they're going to get sick. So it's a whole thing. Wow. So they can't spend 15, 20 minutes in line waiting to go in to do their thing. Wow. And then the drug dealers move around the safe injection site because they have a steady clientele.
Yes, that's what the clientele is. Wow.
And, you know, they say that they test the dope or whatever. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know what they think. They think that if they just tell somebody, oh, no, this stuff's no good, don't do it. They're not going to do it. They don't have anything else. They're going to do that. Nice. If you're not going to let them do it there, they're going to go outside and do it. And then we got back with what we're seeing now, where I got kids walking down the street while they're shooting up as they're going to school. It's not right.
Oh, my goodness. So I want to say thank you for that. And this is about your honesty as well. And thank you for that. Excuse me. About your honesty about, you know, the fact that you're coming from a place of recovery. And this is a person talking to you real talk, you know, somebody who knows. He knows that why safe injection sites are not going to work. Yeah. You know, and it's more people need to come out and be able to say it. More people need to stand up and say these things, you know, and be really diligent about getting that message across. About getting that message across. So now with that said, we're actually wrapping up. So thank you. We got Brother Snap is on the background to the Chelsea. They have us all taken care of on behind the scenes. But, you know, thank you for your candor. You know, thank you for your real talk. We really appreciate it. You know, make sure you guys get out to vote. You can send in your mail-in ballots right now.
Yes, you can.
You can vote today. You know, vota ahora, as we just talked about with Damaris Garcia. Vote today. And then, of course, on Election Day, which is May 16th, this is Brother Jim Harrity, currently a council member, who is now running for re-election. Your website again?
www.jimharrityforcouncil.com.
Remember, if you're voting, you're at the table. If you're not voting, you're on the table. So with that said, we want to thank you again for tuning in to Why Vote, Why Now? On a Moment with Purple. And remember, where there is no vision, a people perish. Keep the faith, baby. Until in a few minutes to the next show. Bye. Thank you. And now, microphone. I forgot it.